EU leaders are reflecting on a week of crisis, which ended with the hard reality that transatlantic relations are now shattered. Heads of state and government met for an emergency summit in Brussels, initially planned as a format for the EU to decide how best to proceed, following Trump's announcement he was imposing tariffs on 7 EU countries and the UK. The 11th hour back down on the tariffs meant the agenda shifted to other matters, such as plans to better integrate Ukraine into the EU and Trump's so-called Gaza peace board. But the Trump administration's hostility to America's allies loomed large over the meeting, and Europe agrees it needs to accelerate its independence away from the US.
We know that we have to work more and more for an independent Europe. This is not something which happened overnight. This is hard work. And the main ingredients, the main topics to work on for an independent Europe is economic power and the security infrastructure that is necessary.
EU leaders also discussed the recently signed Mercosur trade deal. Earlier this week, the European Parliament voted to test the legality of the deal by sending it to the European Court of Justice, which will delay its official rollout. But leaders agree on provisionally implementing the deal while they await a judgment from the EU's top court. All they need is the countries of Latin America now to be ready.
A decision would only be needed at a stage when one country of Mercosur or more countries of Mercosur have completed their procedures, are basically ready. So in short, we will be ready when they are ready.
The decision by US President Donald Trump to back down on imposing tariffs in relation to forcing Denmark to give up Greenland is indeed a welcome one. But it doesn't now shake the reality that one of the most important, effective and reliable global partnerships in the world is essentially no more. All trust is eroded. We'll see what happens next. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
U.S. negotiators led by Steve Witkoff met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow for marathon overnight talks on ending Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine that lasted well into Friday morning. Kremlin diplomatic advisor Yuri Ushakov told reporters their discussions had been useful, as the Kremlin insisted that the territorial issue needs to be resolved to reach a peace deal.
Главное, что в ходе этих переговоров нашего президента с американцами было вновь констатировано, что без решения территориального вопроса по согласованной в Анкоридже формуле рассчитывать на достижение долгосрочного урегулирования не стоит.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said that both Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky want to reach a deal. Trump had met with Zelensky earlier on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos.
They'll make concessions. Everybody's making concessions to get it done. Europe is going to be a part of it. It's going to be a part of it. Look, it's more for Europe than for me. I mean, I'm doing this more for Europe than for me. I'm doing it to save lives, number one. I'm doing it secondarily for Europe. I'm not doing it so much for the U.S. It doesn't affect us very much.
The Kremlin confirmed that trilateral meetings involving the U.S., Ukraine and Russia are due to begin Friday in the United Arab Emirates.
Moscow launched 101 drones over Ukrainian overnight attacks, killing at least 5, as Kyiv targeted Russia's energy infrastructure. Ukraine's armed forces say they shot down 76 of the drones, while 12 hit locations. 4 people were killed, including a 5-year-old boy, and 5 were injured in a Russian drone attack on the village of Cherkassky in the Donetsk region.
Побігом дітвору в погріб поховалися. Дітвору в погріб пішли допомагати людей розкапувати. Одного викопали, второго викопали. Мертвих уже. Єлі там дівчину викопали, дитину живу витягнули, потім відправили одразу на машині, відправили в скору з ожогами.
More strikes were recorded on the settlement of Komishovacha in the Zaporizhzhia region, where one elderly man was killed and 10 people were injured, according to local officials. Russian drone strikes on the city of Kryvyi caused a power outage that trapped workers in 2 mines, some at 1,135 meters below ground. After a 6-hour-long rescue operation, the miners were brought above ground, according to Ukraine's state emergency service on Friday. Meanwhile, a fuel depot in Russia's city of Penza was reportedly on fire after debris from a Ukrainian drone ignited it.
The Russian Defense Ministry released a video on Friday described as showing 2 long-range Tu-22 M3 bombers performing a planned flight in the airspace over neutral waters of the Baltic Sea. Russian authorities said the escort was provided by crews of Su-35 and Tu-30 fighters aircraft of the aerospace forces. The flight duration was about 5 hours, they claim. At certain stages of the route, long-range bombers were accompanied by fighter jets from foreign countries, the Russian Minister of Defense added. According to the Defense Ministry, all flights of aircraft of the Russian aerospace forces are carried out in strict accordance with international rules for the use of airspace.
US President Donald Trump says he is still watching Iran just in case it wants to take action against the country over its crackdown on protesters. A Navy official confirmed that an aircraft carrier and 3 accompanying destroyers left the South China Sea and began heading west earlier this week.
You know, we have a lot of ships going that direction, just in case. We have a big flotilla going in that direction, and we'll see what happens. We have a big force going toward Iran. I'd rather not see anything happen, but we're watching them very closely.
Trump also repeated the claim that he personally stopped the execution of over 800 people, a claim that Iran's top prosecutor denies and calls completely false. Meanwhile, on Friday, the human rights activists news agency released a new number of 5,002 people killed and 26,800 arrested during the nationwide protests, making it the worst in decades. On Wednesday, Tehran said 3,117 people had been killed. However, in the past, Iran has undercounted or not reported fatalities from unrest.
MPs in the French National Assembly rejected 2 no-confidence votes on Friday that could have brought down the government. It comes after Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu used a constitutional tool to push through the first part of a finance bill without a vote by lawmakers. Opposition parties chose to counter-attack by tabling 2 separate motions of no confidence. Lecornu insisted that using Article 49.3 of the Constitution must only be used in exceptional circumstances.
Je n'ai pas engagé la responsabilité du gouvernement pour contourner les institutions de la Ve République. Je l'ai au contraire fait pour les protéger. Mais aucune institution, aussi solide soit-elle, ne peut fonctionner durablement si celles et ceux qui l'incarnent renoncent à leurs propres responsabilités. Les recours à l'article 49 alinéa 3 ne pourront plus être utilisés demain comme avant. Ils ne pourront plus être un réflexe.
The motion of no confidence, coming from the Friends Unbowed Party and supported by its environmentalist and communist partners, received only 269 votes. The second one, brought by the far-right National Rally and its ally, the UDR group, received 142 votes. Both needed 288 votes to pass.
In an interview with Euronews, a lawyer for the 2 alleged victims of Julio Iglesias says the reported acts are not isolated and point to a clear pattern of behavior.
Rebeca y Laura quieren que esta situación no vuelva a ocurrir. Están buscando garantías de no repetición y, por supuesto, reparación para ellas. Creemos que un mensaje clave que queremos dar es que la sociedad necesita escuchar y apoyar a las sobrevivientes de violencia sexual. Yo creo que sí un mensaje clave queremos dar es ese.
The complaint includes alleged abuse, working conditions, harassment, sexual assaults and possible human trafficking offences.
Hemos reunido una serie bastante extensa de indicios de distinta índole, como tú comentabas, y una vez reunida lo hemos puesto en conocimiento de la Fiscalía. Hemos sido contactadas por extrabajadores de Julio Iglesias que alegan haber trabajado con él, aunque ahora mismo no podemos revelar exactamente cuál es el contenido de esas conversaciones, básicamente por seguridad de esas personas, porque han depositado en nosotras su confianza, pero cómo está yendo todo, no es descartable recibir contactos de otros posibles testimonios o personas que hayan padecido lamentablemente situaciones similares. Nada descartable.
The two alleged victims have chosen to remain anonymous for fear of possible reprisals. Julio Iglesias, for his part, denies the accusations.
Bueno, sí que es cierto que el denunciado tiene es sabido, tiene una posición de influencia y de poder y con una considerable capacidad para emprender represalias e intimidarlas. Entonces, cuando primero entramos en contacto con Rebeca y Laura, sí que nos manifiestan su temor por su integridad, por su privacidad, por su vida privada, por su seguridad y estabilidad emocional si se revela su identidad. Esto no está reñido con el hecho de que quieran alzar su voz para buscar justicia y buscar reparación por el daño que han sufrido. Entonces, por eso se ha solicitado el anonimato para que no se divulgue su información personal y, bueno, como estamos diciendo antes, no es descartable tipos de acciones que busquen en el futuro intimidarlas o represaliarlas de algún modo.